We've completed 2 years in the Buffalo Bulls dynasty in college football 25, and today we're going to recap the second offseason of the series. I streamed this a couple days ago, and you can check out that long 3+ hour live stream if you would like, but I'll be covering what happened in that offseason leading us into year 3 here in this video. It's obviously been a really challenging start to the series with a 1-star team that turned into a 0-star team, and we've only won 7 games in 2 years. Now, right off the bat, I missed my chance to change coordinators. I can only fire and hire new ones during conference championship week. I forgot about that. It's in my notes now for next year that's the stage I have to go and do it, but I won't have new coordinators for this next season. But going into this offseason, I felt really good about the state of the team. We weren't losing a huge senior class, and a lot of our best players are juniors, meaning we'd have an even better team, hopefully, to bring into year 3. Here's a look at the college football playoff bracket for this year, with Oregon as the 1 seed, Charlotte all the way up there as the 4. Nobody from the MAC is in the tournament this year. Buffalo finished near the bottom again with a 3-5 conference record. And here's a look at our recruiting board as we get into the offseason, where we have a chance to take a look at some dev traits and see that we are currently ranked 74th in the country after a 72nd ranked recruiting class in year 1. I spent all year trying to bring in the best 3-star players that I could. I liked our class. Tight end Logan Clinkscale, he's got impact development. Route running receiver Sean Prochet, normal. But the big combo here, early on, I wanted to bring in a new quarterback. Ray Elway, star development. Wide receiver Enrique Trejo, also star. These two could be linked together for a long time if things play out well in this dynasty. Chauncey Baptiste, star dev at left guard. I think I've done a pretty good job of getting us some good developmental linemen so far. There were 3 key ones in that year 1 class, a couple more in this one. Alfonso Magnifico, impact development, and Cortez Shed as well as we bolster the secondary depth. We add an additional player to our class with the commitment of safety Brenton Lampman, a 2-star player. Now, obviously, I'm not going anywhere in this dynasty, but Coastal Carolina did offer Adam Kane a head coach position. Obviously, we're staying at Buffalo, but just wanted to show that to you. Simulating through these bowl games, we get another commitment from defensive tackle Jaleel Callaway, and we see that it's an Alabama-Oregon national championship matchup this year. Charlotte went all the way to the semifinals, but got blown out 52-7. And with the offseason truly underway, we can see now that full star has been restored for Buffalo. We're a 1-star team again. There's only one 0-star program now in the dynasty. That's Louisiana Monroe. We now join a more crowded 1-star pack of teams, and now we set our sights on becoming a 2-star program. It's going to take some more work, but I'm happy to have more recruiting hours now for next season. The champs are the Oregon Ducks, 27-24. They top Alabama. Let's go to players leaving. We only had, I believe, 16 seniors graduating and 1 player choosing to transfer away. But I had been warned about this basically all year after every week when I get those new updates. I knew we could potentially lose a starting caliber guard, but I felt good about the depth and recruiting I've done along the offensive line. Buffalo, again, has nobody drafted. We've got a lot of work to do if we want to boost our pro potential and maybe attract new prospects that wouldn't usually be considering Buffalo. Hopefully, we're close to getting those first draft picks. Bowling Green had a couple. They were the top team in the MAC this season. Now, let's get to the offseason recruiting then. I focused a lot here on the transfer portal. I've wanted to boost the front 7 on defense, and I was also interested in what I could do along the offensive line. Now, I chose to not go for a portal quarterback, feeling good about our situation with Ray Elway and his star development, and then having Richie Watts coming in for his senior year. Now, 0 offensive linemen and running backs would actually consider us, and a big reason why is because many of these players are transferring because of the play style deal breaker, which has to do with either sacks allowed or rushing yards, which are two things we did terribly at last year. We gave up 40 sacks, had one of the worst run games in college football, so offensive linemen really don't want to transfer to us. That is a problem we have to solve in traditional recruiting. But there were still a lot of defensive players that caught my attention. So I scouted a variety of tackles, linebackers, safeties. David Anderson was one player that stood out. I want to get some strong players that can hold up and run defense, especially playing like 4-2-5 and a lot of 2-deep safety stuff. You've got to be able to just survive there sometimes with a 5-6-man box and just trust that with an even matchup against the offensive line, you can hold your own. I don't want to have to bring the safety down continuously, so I've really focused on getting this run defense better because it was atrocious last year, and if it doesn't get better, it's hard to see us competing for a bowl game or even a MAC championship. So a lot of players here were targets, and basically all my points here in the offseason were dedicated to these portal players. I felt like our high school recruiting class was basically done, and there were so many good opportunities here. I still had to manage our points well. I scouted Braylon Staley here, a wide receiver, only one time, feeling like his ratings were good enough. I didn't need more information. I'm still rationing these points very conservatively. The remaining high school players on our board mostly had pretty competitive battles. I still wanted Trent Matlock, but seeing two teams there interested, I just couldn't really justify putting the points into that battle when there were a lot of good defensive players we could add. Here's how bad our run defense was last year. 2,009 rushing yards. We've got to do better this season. We had the worst run defense in all of college football and gave up like 4 150-yard games. It was quickly apparent that Matlock was probably going to go elsewhere with Temple taking over first place. But for the key targets I had in the portal, the guys I wanted were, first of all, players that were already favoring us to begin with, but basically put us as their #1 team after getting that scholarship offer. And I maxed out, a couple of those players. I did what I could. There were like 6 or 7 players I really liked. And then I'm not going to go through like every little thing I did here, but as I had the ability to, I would hard sell for these players, schedule visits, and did all that little tinkering you can do with the points to be efficient. I did end up saving some points to schedule a visit for Trent Matlock, but we ultimately did not get him after not really putting any points into that battle. I then found another receiver that caught my attention. We have Talon Shetron, another deep threat who is a junior and wasn't really getting a lot of attention in the portal, so I gave him an offer. As we sim through this stage, we get commitments from Jake Jackson. That was a big one. He was one of my main targets. He's like one of those early 2000s defensive ends who was like more of a run defense-oriented player. And then we get David Anderson at D-tackle, a very strong run stopper. That gave us some more points to consider some other targets. I gave an offer here to tight end Jack Nickel. And then we got a bunch more commitments. Braylon Staley at wide receiver. Then we go and we add Penei Fuimauno, a big run-stopping defensive tackle. CJ Turner, Demario Hines. Basically, I got the portal guys that I wanted. I don't think I lost on any of them that I was putting big points into. And this gave us, ultimately, the 53rd ranked recruiting class in the country, up from 72 after year 1, so I'm aiming for top 40 maybe next year. That's a high bar if I can't get 4s and 5s, but To me, this was a really strong recruiting class, very focused on the right areas and giving us a chance to add portal players that can make year 3 much better. I want to take this team up a level next year, and I think we're going to have a roster with the seniors on this team that have played with us for 2 years, combined with some of these new faces. I mean, guys like Braylon Staley can easily make an impact. That level of athleticism is uncommon in the MAC. 94 speed, 95 acceleration, and you're going to see some of the training development soon as well. Now, I wasn't sure going into the offseason about the quarterback situation. Would it be Watts? Would it be Elway? Elway's ratings came in, you know, low enough to where when I saw those compared to Watts, I felt like it was probably going to be Richie Watts' job. I was just hoping to see him develop well. Didn't have to do a whole lot here during position changes. Just moved Antoine Berryman to a left tackle instead. And you can get an idea here of what our D-line's going to look like this season. Now, this is before development, and remember that transfers right now in the game do not receive any development, which is kind of bizarre, but what you see here for those players is what you get that next season. In some cases, with players like Fui Mauno, those were more long-term moves to bring in a player that could still develop for a couple years down the road. Maybe not start immediately, but start eventually. And here's the training results. Check out how many 80 overall plus players Buffalo has now, after having 1 back in the first episode of the series. Richie Watts to a 76 overall with very comparable ratings to that of Gunnar Gray. I felt like the move from Gray to Watts would potentially be pretty easy. Same archetype, about the same level of mobility, similar arm talent. But then we go to running back, and Lamar Sperling is suddenly an 85 overall. Remember last year, it was so disappointing. He didn't even improve in training, and now he's up like 9 points. Lamar Sperling could be in for a very big year with this upgrade. And Leon Dingle's up from a 66 to a 75. Now, he's close to his caps. It feels to me like players are developing the most early in their careers, and then it levels off. So it's a different experience from NCAA 14, but I like this a whole lot more. This receiving core is looking good, guys. Our 1 through 5 can go up with any team in the MAC. Austin Harris to a 72. He's about at his caps now as a receiver, but we know he's a playmaker even at 66. And check out Kevin Kajust. He's a 77 now. One of the biggest leaps in overall on this team. Now he's close to his caps, but I do think he's going to have a chance to be a really good complete tight end, because it wasn't just receiving stuff that got better. He's also the best run-blocking tight end now on the roster, with the most athleticism and the best route running. Somebody in the chat pointed this out to me. Dallas Roche. He was like a 53 last year, or a 57, something low where you wouldn't even consider playing him. And now he's a 70. I love these massive leaps. I love that the system isn't predictable. I think it makes the experience far more dynamic and fun for the way I like to approach Dynasty. And I think our offensive line, while not great last year, is looking like it's in decent shape for this season. Chet Sanders developed well. He won't start, but it looks like some of his run game weaknesses did get better. He's on his way to becoming a starter in his junior season. But the big leap here along the offensive line, Dom Camarda. He was part of our first recruiting class and was like a mid-60s player last season. He's taken over for Matt Pajust. Maybe he learned a few things, because now he almost has his overall rating. Camarda's a 79 and ready to start as a freshman. Chase Chadwick, he is an 80, hopefully a few less holding calls this year, but I think that right side's looking like the strength once again, and that leap from Camarda could be a huge difference maker for us. Wesley Williams is now an 86 overall, the #1 ranked player on the team. We know he can play inside and outside, and that's going to be true as well for Jake Jackson. We're going to continue just playing a bunch of guys to see who makes plays. Like Jermichael Humphreys, he stood out late last year, and now he's up from like a 66 to a 75. So you can bet he's going to be out there again with still a lot more potential to grow. At D-tackle, the two guys that brought in the portal are not going to be the top 2 rated guys. So you might not see Anderson or Fuimauno a ton. I want to play a lot more Junior Poyser, as I did find ways to get him productive last season late. And then at linebacker, we got Dion Crawford returning. And then a new player to talk about at linebacker, Joey McCune. He could end up being the starting middle linebacker, replacing Nolan Ziegler, who replaced Sean Dolak. We want to have a good Mike linebacker, and he's got a couple skills we're going to talk about later on in the video. In the secondary, didn't seem like a ton of development here for the starters, but we're talking about Bridges and McCarthrans, 2 entrenched players that have a lot of starting experience now. And then we had some corners that could start as early as next season, get really good development in Buffelli and Ramari Taylor. At safety, nothing big happened here. That was one of the more quiet positions, but I'm very happy with the development, the new additions to this team, and the way the roster looks going into Season 3. A lot of players took big jumps this season. I don't remember it being that way last year. I wish it told you how much better everybody got, but I have an idea of a lot of our ratings off the top of my head, so I know we got some serious boosts. Nobody is getting cut this year. We have an 82-man roster. There's no reason to cut players, especially because you never know who's going to take that big leap. Dallas Roche went from being a cuttable fringe roster player to maybe somebody who ends up contributing eventually. So there's no need to cut players from the team. Let's go through some of those skill caps now for our newest players, like Ray Elway, the 3-star quarterback we hope has many years starting for us. His caps should give him a chance to develop into a solid quarterback, but with a heavy cap there on accuracy, I do worry about his ceiling. He should be a good starter, but I don't see his ratings like significantly jumping the players that we've already had at quarterback. Enrique Trejo, a lot of upside there with route running and already a dangerously fast receiver, so I know he's got a chance to be good. Sean Prochet, unfortunately, doesn't look like he has a whole lot of upward potential. Logan Clinkscale, 58 overall. His blocking will get better, but he's only a 58. He might be a role player, but probably will take a while. Antoine Berryman, already a 67. I think he'll develop into a starting caliber tackle within a couple seasons. And then we had Chauncey Baptiste, star development, and a little bit less restrictive caps. I see him being another one of those guards that could be one of our highest rated offensive linemen. And then Jaleel Callaway, 2-star player, impact dev. He ends up having not the worst caps. He can still get much better run defending. The pass rush has upside. He could be a starter by his junior year. Artie Ernsberger, the run-stopping linebacker. Could see him get a little bit better in coverage, but he's already done developing as a run stopper. Alfonso Magnifico should turn into a starting caliber defensive back. Cortez Shed, another 3-star impact corner. He has similar upside, but is a better athlete. Anton Claypool, 1-star safety. He was a gem, so I brought him in. And I think with those caps, he has a chance if he has one of those big training years like we have seen from some other players. I apparently had brought in like 3 safeties. Brenton Lampman's caps don't look great, and then Kalen Meekins, his don't look all that promising either. So, long shot safeties there. Not much has changed for our pitches going into this year of recruiting. Championship contender still very low. Nobody was drafted, but we're a 1-star team now and we have more hours to use. We're going to have to recruit some more players this year with those extra hours because we are losing 28 seniors this year, and the early focus is going to be on replenishing offensive line, getting more linebackers. That's a very thin position. Running back is actually something we should focus on, but then also cornerback, as we're going to graduate 3 players and 2 of our main starters there. So taking a look at the recruiting options for this year, I always start there at the top. Who has us number one? What does the outlook look like for the 5s and 4-star players out there? It seems like a lot more players, especially in the 3-star range, already have Buffalo as their top team. Now, nobody that's a 5 or a 4 even had us in their top 10. But I do want to attempt to try to get that first 4-star of the series. And I'm targeting offensive line because that's going to be a spot for us to significantly upgrade and put us in a good spot playing in the MAC. So I looked for guards and tackles that were in a pipeline and had like a proximity to home deal breaker, which would ensure that we would have at least one pitch that fit them really well. I added a couple quarterbacks to our board as I think we should still take a look at what's out there. Elway has promise, but not enough to just shut the door on other quarterbacks out there. And much of this initial board is offensive line, linebacker, a meat and potatoes approach, because that's what we need to take this team up to the next level. I'm not going to cover this initial recruiting too in-depth, as I'm just casting a really wide net. I know a bunch of these players aren't going to consider us, but I offered 2 4-star players without even scouting them. If you're a 4-star, you can get auto scholarship here at Buffalo. And I'm also going to upgrade with our coaching points here, linebackers in recruiting, as that's going to be one of our most important positions. And then I'm also going to upgrade the offensive line all the way to level 4. We're going to spend a lot of these other points, though, on the tactician tree, as I want those ratings boosts, especially along the D-line to get better stopping the run. That's such a high priority. Here are a couple players, though, that stood out. Here's Joel Treggs. These athletes along the offensive line are so intriguing. 76 speed at guard. Imagine the screens you could run with that guy. Soma Ojinaka, a running back that had us at number 1, so he immediately got on the board and got a scholarship offer. We got Steven Daniels, a guard who is a gem. I'll give you a few players here that are interesting, but when the board is kind of more settled into week 1, I can take some guys off and see what those positions really look like. Then you'll get more of a breakdown of what these players can do. But players like Max Wall, I'd love to have, and it's just not going to happen. There are a couple 4-stars, though, I am still going to be pursuing. The players who have like 9 offers, and we're not even in their top 9, and it's like massive schools from Power 4 conferences, I know that we need to give up on those. But I felt like we had 2 4-stars in particular. Here's Dorian Henry, who has only 3 offers, and 2 of them are from MAC teams. So we should definitely send the house and just see if we have a chance. And thankfully, I have 50 more hours to spend in this stage. I was so used to 300-hour weeks. Now we're going to have a little bit more. We're also going to be sending the house for John Burns as the 2 4s. We're going to see if we can bring in Kevin Babineau, though, the athlete quarterback. Definitely pay attention to him this year, as he has really solid day 1 accuracies with a good arm, great speed, probably somebody that could push for a starting role. And when we get to the regular season now, I'm going to be spending a lot more attention on our play style grades, because I'd like the opportunity to bring in offensive linemen in the portal. And if I can't get our playing style grades up, it's just not going to happen. Rushing yards per game and sacks allowed are the 2 areas of focus there. I want to run the ball, and this can be a really positive feedback loop. If we run the ball well this year, we should be able to take less sacks. I don't want to pass it as much as we have, although we have some seriously intriguing talent this year, and our receiving core looks like a big strength. So I'm already reducing the board, taking off 4-stars that don't even know that Buffalo has a D1 program. And then John Burns has us at 3, Dorian Henry 4. That's a start, and we'll take it. I got into practice mode to check out our quarterbacks, and here is Richie Watts. I don't have to really say a whole lot because he's so similar to Gunnar Gray. Gray had, I'd say, a better arm, maybe a bit more arm strength, but there is nothing that really separates the two in any meaningful way. I think that we can just run the offense, you know. It could be the same as last year, but I want to be better at running the ball, and when I go through and make a couple changes to our playbook, I'd like a few more different running schemes. Here is Ray Elway out there, by the way. His accuracy is just not on the level of Watts. You'll see his mobility, which is just all right. He's not going to be running away from anybody, but he can extend plays, and he's not a complete statue in the pocket. But with our run game this year, I don't want to be so reliant on like running inside zone. I want to run a lot more different schemes, and the playbook here for Buffalo has just had almost all inside zone or read option, and I have to add some more. Eric Pacheco is somebody you could still see get packages and opportunities. He's a much better passer too, so there could be some opportunities for him to even throw the ball. But as a runner, he can offer an element that we haven't had since we were playing with CJ Ogbonna back in Season 1. So when the games begin this year, here's the schedule. Kennesaw State is our opener. UTSA follows. We go at Penn State in Week 3. And I want this rematch with Temple in Week 4. That matchup last year, man, giving up like 59 points. I've been wanting that rematch really badly. We do get Bowling Green again this year, and they should be very strong again. Now, if I had to give you some players to watch out for in year 3, Lamar Sperling, going up nearly 10 in overall after a bit of a down sophomore year. I think he's in for a big season. I want to see the return of the big plays and a much more consistent run game. Braylon Staley is going to have a big role in the passing game. With his speed, route running, he's got a very complete skill set, and he is one of the best route runners on the team. Messiah Birch is better in short, and Birch's catching got a lot better in the offseason, but I'm giving Staley that slot job on day 1. Kevin Kajust, now becoming the starting tight end, is going to offer us a new dynamic because he can stretch the field better than the other tight ends we've played. But he's also our best run blocker, so he's the best option no matter what scheme we're running. Dom Camarda at right guard, I've talked about him. I think we're going to be running a lot to this right side. Jake Jackson should be a starter and out there quite a bit with his run stopping giving us a boost. And Joey McCune, his coverage is still decent, but with low speed, I don't think that coverage is actually great. But his run stopping definitely stands out. The tackle, the pursuit, the block shed, that's going to get him on the field. And last, Ramari Taylor, the sophomore. I'm having him play the slot. He is our most physical corner, 78 tackling. Very excited to see him for the first time. And I think in year 3, we have a chance to take this team to a new level, and my goal is to have us win 6 games, compete for a bowl, go win that, and start to look more like a MAC Conference Championship contender. What do you think about this team going into year 3? Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what players you're most excited to see, and if you have a player you think breaks out in a big way, leave those predictions down below. And if you're enjoying this series, I'd appreciate it if you left a like on the video. That's a great way to help support the channel and the content. Subscribe to the channel for much more Buffalo Bulls Dynasty. And we're on to year 3 here this coming week. Can't wait.